Hey everyone, I'm back, and today we're going to be talking about Freddy's Dead, The Final Nightmare, otherwise known as A Nightmare on Elm Street 6, if you would like to call it that. And this movie is directed by Rachel Talalay, if I pronounced that correctly, and this was her first feature film. And for a first feature film, it's bad. And it was like a big studio film, much like with David Fincher, like it probably didn't have a lot of creative control over the project, so I don't even know how much I can blame this project being as bad as it was on her because of that, because she had like no reputation. But the end product that we got was terrible. This is easily the worst Nightmare on Elm Street film. It doesn't even have Nightmare on Elm Street in the title. And there's barely anything good about it. The acting is terrible for the most part. Robert Englund, he still did a good job, although his character is kind of all over the place, really bad, and just really goofy at points in ways that do not help out the experience. And this movie did remind me of Superman 4: The Quest for Peace at points, with a bunch of cheap effects the whole time. And wow, does this movie use nothing but cheap effects the entire time. It really ruins everything that's going on in the dream sequences. It ruins all of the horror, and it just drags me out of the experience and reminds me, oh, what I'm seeing is not actually happening. And it all just feels like it's being done in a computer in a way that does not feel scary. And I also didn't really enjoy Freddy Krueger's redesign. He doesn't really look burned. It just looks like a bunch of makeup that he has on. And the way the movie's lit also was very distracting, and no one looked intimidating or like interesting, especially Freddy Krueger. He just looked way too goofy in this movie. The directing in this movie is also not good. It's very poorly shot throughout, and there's just nothing interesting visually throughout the entirety of the runtime. And this movie does get very slow at points. Like 20 minutes will go by at a certain point in this movie, and it'll feel like an hour for me. That's how bad the pacing in this movie is. I was not scared by anything in this movie. I did not laugh once intentionally. There's some things that I was able to laugh at unintentionally, but aside from that, no laughs from me whatsoever. The song choices in this movie, very distracting and clash with the tone of the film overall. The opening scene of this movie is just bizarre and all over the place, and it definitely tells you what type of movie you're going to get into if you decide to watch this movie, which I would highly recommend you do not watch this movie. And a big chunk of this movie is just retracing its own steps, just going through all of the information that we know from the first few films, and then we eventually get to its own thing an hour into the movie, and then it gets into its own story, and by the time you get to that point, it's like, okay, this is just random nonsense happening for no reason, and I can do without this. And the characters in this movie are awful. No one is likable in this movie. There's literally nothing to like about anybody in this movie. If they all died, nothing would matter. And that's about all I have to say about Freddy's Dead, The Final Nightmare. It's definitely not The Final Nightmare, because we got New Nightmare after this, and we also got Freddy vs. Jason, and then we got the remake. Apparently, we may or may not get another Nightmare on Elm Street movie. Sometimes I see something being made. Sometimes an article will come up and say, no, that's not actually happening. So who knows what's going to happen with this franchise at this point. I would highly recommend that you do not check out this movie. And as far as this franchise is concerned, watch 1, 3, and 7. Those being the first movie, the third movie, that being Dream Warriors, and the seventh movie, that's New Nightmare. Watch those 3 movies. Everything else you can skip. And with all that being said, I'm going to give Freddy's Dead, The Final Nightmare, a 1 out of 10. Easily the worst in this series. And I'll never come back to this one again. I had a few laughs, and that's about it. Thank you for watching my videos as always. If you enjoyed this review, be sure to leave a like and comment down below you thought Freddy's Dead, The Final Nightmare, and my social media links. They'll all be in the description, so follow me there. And last but not least, subscribe to be a part of Foley Nation, and I'll see when I get my next review up, and that is going to be for Dark Waters. So look forward to that, but until I get that up, thank you for watching and have a great day.